Todd Tribbett, only one night though. With the Light 103.9, the Triangle's Inspiration Station. I'm your sister Melissa Wade in the water. Told y'all I was going to have special guests in the studio today because today is only one day for this town hall. And Roland Martin, my brother, is hanging out here with us in the studio. How you doing, Roland?
Doing great. Glad to be back. It's been a bit.
It's been a long time. What, women's empowerment?
It was 2014.
Oh,
so I don't know why they invited brother back. I'm just saying. I know we killed it.
Yeah,
so
you did.
I'm just saying. I mean, I don't know, but hey, it's all good.
We're going to go out and protest, right? Bring Roland back. Yes, that's what we're going to do. Hey, but nonetheless, you are back, and we're glad that you're in our city. And for a very special event, you have your Unfiltered Town Hall.
Yep.
And we're talking about St. Aug. And, of course, we've been in the news, not necessarily for anything good, but you're here to talk about it. And
that's the problem. We've look, I have the only black news and information digital network in the country, and we center African Americans. We have a segment called HBCU Connect. We talk about a lot of great things HBCUs are doing, but also we recognize that when they have problems. We've covered the stories before. There have been other institutions that have come on the show. They've talked about when they've had accreditation issues. Right. When Bennett was going through the issues, we had them on the show. I had parents and students at Bethune-Cookman calling me last year that we eventually did a town hall there as well. I broadcast my show from Edward Waters University. I've done the show from Clark, Atlanta. And the reality is there are 107 HBCUs in the country. I've actually been to 60 of them.
Wow.
I've done 22 commencement speeches. I've done 20 of them, 19 of them at HBCUs. And so I understand the value of our institutions. And when you have an institution that continues to have the same problems, then you've got to begin to say, hey, what's going on here? You've got different alumni groups asking questions. When I'm talking to my producer and we're talking to folks, and I'm going, wait a minute, I'm sorry, this is 2025 and you don't have students on campus because you can't afford the upkeep. What is going on? Why do you have student enrollment drops? What are you doing? When you keep having financial problems, that's why you're having a problem with your accreditation, which that specifically goes to university leadership and board leadership. And see, one of the greatest problems that we have in the black community is that we don't want to confront things. So people say, oh, that's putting our dirty laundry in the air. Well, guess what? In the last 2 weeks, there have been 2 lawsuits filed against St. Aug.
Absolutely.
And so guess what? Your dirty laundry is public. If you drive by a campus every day and the grass is not cut and students are not on campus, your dirty laundry is public. When you have coaches holding news conferences talking about they can't get paid, it's all public. So the reality is it's all public. When you have to go get a loan at, frankly, loan shark interest rates, your stuff is public. And what's offensive to me is when leadership wants to say, oh, we need to keep things positive, we need your support. Well, if you keep going back to black people, alumni, or simply supporters, and we need help multiple times, why do you keep needing help? This university got $35 million during COVID. I have traveled to other HBCUs. I talked with the president of Alabama State. I talked with the board chair. We sat down. When I spoke there, and we met, and we talked for hours. They talked about how they took that COVID money and how they paid off their debt and how they've been building on their campus. I talked to, when I was a scholar in residence at Fisk University, Van Newkirk, when he was the president. He talked about what they were doing with the COVID relief money. I've talked to other HBCUs, what they were doing. I'm trying to understand, okay, if you got $35 million during that period, what did you do with it?
Right.
How are you, that was 2020, 2021, how are you in a financial strait 4 years later? That doesn't happen by itself. And so this is important. This is not about attacking, belittling, and degrading. It's about getting answers to questions. Last night on my show, Dr. Walter Kimbrough, the interim president of Talladega, okay, he went to university. They had massive financial problems.
Right.
They had a news conference last week. They live streamed it, him and the board chair. and they reveal, this is what we faced, these were the problems, and this is how we're fixing it. Here's our plan. Boom, 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 boom. He talked about traveling around the country, meeting with alumni. He was on the show last night, 45 minutes, talking about, so Talladega, almost the same size as St. Aug. Well, St. Aug folks won't come on. St. Aug president, St. Aug board members won't come on, which is strange because it's amazing how other HBCU presidents will come on. I've had the Morgan State president. I've had Alabama State president. I can start now. We took my show down to Tennessee State, fighting for the HBCU funding for them as well. So this ain't about hating. This is about being real about problems.
Right,
and
exactly.
Too often, just like in black churches, we don't want, well, no, you can't question. No, we can question. Because if you keep coming to black folks saying to bail you out, then somebody has to say, why do we have to keep bailing you out? Maybe you don't need to be in charge.
So with that said, I mean, we're in this predicament. They're in this predicament. And you just interviewed a university president. They got out of it. Is there a way?
Yes, there is a way.
How do we as a community come together to make this happen?
First and foremost, the community has to make demands, and this is very simple. The community has to say to the interim president and to the board of chair and the trustees, we ain't giving you a dime. We are not going to give you a dime until you come talk to the people and then you lay out to us how you got into the problem. See, what happens is folk want to sit here and say, well, no, all that stuff is in the past. We need to be positive and look forward. No, because you've had problems with multiple presidents. So if you've had problems with multiple presidents, that means that either your board was fooled with who they hire, or your board was incompetent in knowing how to pick leadership. You cannot tell me, because I've served on boards of organizations.
Right.
I'm a 3-time board member of the National Association of Black Journalists. The board's job is fiduciary responsibility first. That's your job. And if you continue to have financial problems, you first look at the administration, but you look at the board chair and a board of trustees. That's who you look to. And so the community has to say, no, we're not giving you a dime until you speak to us and you talk about how you got to the problem, but also what is the plan of action? And are you going to continue with the same leadership? You cannot keep the same leadership that got you in the problem that's going to get you out of the problem. And I ain't afraid to say it and challenge folk.
Well, that's what we absolutely need. So who are you inviting to this town hall?
Wide open. It's to the public. It's students, faculty, staff, administration. Listen, the community at large, everyone. We're going to have, from administrators. And here's the deal. We've been reaching out to the administration. They won't come on. They even hit us. They wanted us to remove their logo from our flyer by saying, well, this wasn't officially sanctioned. I said, no, it's not happening.
Wow.
But see, again, that's the silly stuff I'm talking about. If other HBCU presidents who know and respect me, and see this is not, and see this is the other thing. A lot of HBCU folks do. Well, he went to PWI. Sure did. But guess what? The HBCUs that I've donated to don't mind my PWI check. I guarantee you, when Robert Smith gave that $34 million in Morehouse, then wasn't nobody saying, well, he went to Cornell. No, they didn't mind that $34 million. See, we got to get out of that nonsense. I am about black institution, not just surviving. I need us to thrive.
Right.
And we have got to stop being so silly in that, you can't question what's going on. No, you have a problem. You're losing accreditation. If you lose accreditation, your students cannot get financial aid, and you are DOA. We saw what happened to Morris Brown. We've seen what happened to other institutions. This is a real thing, and your accreditation is on the line because of your financial problems.
That's what I was going to ask. What's the worst that could happen, Martin? Roland?
Easy, shut down. We've seen it. There are other HBCUs, St. Paul, shut down. St. Paul shut down. There are other HBCUs that have closed their doors. But there are other HBCUs that were on the brink of dying, and they brought in real leadership, competent leadership, people with a vision, and then they were able to build. A great example is Paul Quinn. They bought what Michael Sorrell is doing down there, and Michael was not He didn't come from other HBCUs. He was a non-traditional president, but he brought in non-traditional leadership. But here's the most important thing. They had a board of trustees who he worked in lockstep with, and their visions were aligned. I have talked to numerous HBCU presidents, and I've talked to numerous HBCU board members, and the most consistent thing they tell me across the country is that if you show me a HBCU that keeps having problems, they have a sorry board of trustees.
Wow. Wow.
That is across the board. That's Florida, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. It's across the line. That is the consistent theme. If you have, because we have people who sit on boards of trustees who have no business being on them, who ain't never run nothing, who don't know nothing, who don't have any relationships, have egos trying to personally enrich themselves, as opposed to somebody who is a board chair and a board member who is there for the institution, who is there for the students, faculty, staff, and administration, who is there to be a public servant. That's what your job is when you are a member of the board of trustees of one of these organizations. And so, look, they are welcome to come and answer the questions and talk to the public, but also talk to the nation. I do 30 million views a month.
Right.
I got people who listen to me all around the country and all around the world. I got people who listen to me in Canada, in UK, in Jamaica, in the Caribbean, all over. So this is not about, oh man, hit or tear us down. No, we've got to learn as black people that we can have real, authentic conversations where we challenge, criticize, and critique, but also offer a plan of action in order to improve and get better.
Absolutely. It's okay to disagree. We got to talk about it. We got to get to the root problem of it. And all of this that Roland is talking about is what they're going to be discussing tonight. Roland Martin, Unfiltered, the Town Hall. Starts at 6 p.m. The doors will open at 5. 105 East Martin Street at Martin Street Baptist Church, downtown Raleigh. Martin, thank you. Roland Martin, thank you so very much. I can't thank you enough. We definitely need somebody who's going to sound off, who's, as they say, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. We got to squeak really loud.
We did this at Bethune-Cookman last year, and there were a lot of changes that happened because we put the light. And understand, when we talk about the light, there's a portrait of Ida B. Wells Barnett that's in my studio. And her famous quote is, "The way to right wrong is to shine the light of truth upon them."
You're in the right studio because we are the light. Now, you have a book.
Yeah, White Fear.
All this. I'll
be autographed for tonight. White Fear, good. How the Browning of America is making white folks lose their mind.
Right.
All this stuff that you're seeing, I literally called this in 2009. And people were telling, I was on CNN and TV One and Tom Joyner, and people telling me I was crazy. I was like, y'all, literally, I have speeches where I'm like, guys, I said, we're living in this is 2009. I said the beginning stages of white minority resistance. And everything that you're seeing right now, I said was going to happen because they fear the day when we become a nation majority people of color. And I said all of the attacks, but here's the other thing. We have to understand it's also history. This was going to happen after Obama. There's never been a moment in American history, ever, where a period of black success was not followed by a period of white backlash. This state knows that. When you talked about the redemption movement, when you talk about what happened when there was an insurrection of a town in North Carolina where white folks said, we are not going to have these black folks taking over. That was Wilmington, North Carolina.
Yes.
That is what you see happening today. And so we have to understand what's going on, and we have to be fortified. And I really need folk in this state to pay hard attention to what's going on. The Supreme Court race, okay, well, they're still trying to steal that race.
Yes.
Okay, Anita Earls is up for re-election next year, but in 2028, there are going to be three seats. 3 of those Republican seats are open, and they can be beaten. This is going to be a critical state. Last point I make, and people need to think long term. 2028 election is so important because you have the 2030 census. It is predicted that blue states are going to lose anywhere from 10 to 12 congressional districts because of population shifts. California, New York State, Wisconsin, Illinois. Those seats are going to be moving south.
Wow.
So, from a Democratic standpoint, From a black standpoint, North Carolina, they are going to have to win North Carolina. This state, and I said this to some pastors who had Reverend Sharp's NAN conference, this state can be like Georgia, but you have to organize and mobilize this state, and you can't do West North Carolina. The greatest mistake, and I kept telling her campaign of Vice President Kamala Harris, they refuse to go east in the black belt. We have significant black power, and black people in this state showed their power in 2008. My problem is we turned out in massive numbers in 2008. Right. Obama wins this state by 14,100 votes, but we have fallen off. I'm not interested in a party organizing us. I'm not interested in a candidate organizing us. We should be mobilizing and organizing ourselves for black self-interest. And that's what we need to do. So the 2026 Senate race is going to be critical. The 2026 Supreme Court race is going to be critical. And then once that happens, then focus on 2028, those Supreme Court seats, because you take the Supreme Court, then you get rid of racial gerrymandering, partisan gerrymandering. You get rid of all of the attacks on black folks we've seen coming out of this legislature.
We got to show up and we've got to sound off.
And we have the power. We just have to use it.
Roland, thank you so very much. Thank you for
Appreciate
being here. Tonight, the Town Hall, Martin Street Baptist Church, 105 East Martin Street in Raleigh. Doors open at 5. It starts at 6. Y'all show up. Roland Martin Unfiltered would also be on YouTube, so make sure you catch it. Again, Roland, thank you so very much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate
Thanks
all your knowledge. All right, y'all, keep it locked in right here. More favorites are on the way here on The Light.